Hello and welcome back to my craft room. Well, if you're a regular viewer, you might have seen my first attempt at paper making a week or two ago. Here's the little stack of paper that I made. I was so pleased with this for my first attempt. Let me take you to the desk to have another look. They're quite small pieces. I probably want to either get hold of or make myself a bigger mould and decal now, but I can use these as little thank you cards. If I cut them into sort of thirds, I'll get kind of business card size. So I think, I definitely will make good use of them. I love how this was using the these first ones were just using the toilet paper wrappers. Who gives a crap toilet paper wrappers, which we're now saving again. I love how little bits of the wording came out. You can see there, your like numbers and things came out, and the sort of confetti effect of the little tiny scraps of paper. Then I tried incorporating some onion skins. There were gold flakes in there, some bits of thread out of my oats jar. It's lovely to be able to use all of these things. So what I'm going to do, two things really. Separate video, I'm going to have a go. I did make a couple of bigger pieces of this paper, but I didn't squash it flat. What have I done with them? So these are slightly bigger pieces where I tried just overlapping. I used the same small size mould and deck. You can see the edge of who gives a crap there. And I just overlap them when I put them down on the drying cloths. And they seem to have fused together really, really well. So with these odd pieces, I'm going to have a little experiment, but I'll do it in a separate video. Doing a little bit of faux letterpress in here, just dropping things, dropping some watercolour in, trying out some different drawing materials. I don't think it's going to take really well to wet media at all, but I might get some interesting effects. So I'm going to do that in a separate video. But the other thing I want to do is perhaps weekly or so, I'm going to try a different paper recipe, for want of a better term. So I'm going to get started on today's. I've been collecting up all kinds of rubbish here. And I have several different ideas for different recipes that I want to try. So I've been collecting things like, this is Amazon packaging. It's going to make a really dark paper, and that might be quite fun for using certain media on. I've collected a couple of egg boxes, and I've even got, I'll put this to one side, I've even collected and cleaned, taken the membrane out and everything off some eggshells, which I'm going to break up and try and colour and incorporate into some paper. So this is going to be for an Easter special. I carried on and collected a few more onion skins and garlic skins. They're the sort of pretty pinky purpley ones. There are the garlic skins. There's a couple of dried flowers that came in with that little kit that I got, and this is the kind of strings that you pull off a celery, and I quite like that. Even though that's dried now, it's retained. It's not coming across very well on the camera, but it is a pale green, so that's for another one. Definite idea for that, which will be fun, I think. It's interesting that the onion skins themselves put out a colour too. I've got lots of things like brushos, pigment powders, glitters and things like that, mica flakes, all kinds of things that I'm going to experiment with incorporating into paper. This is one of the toilet roll wrappers. So there's Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. We've been having this for years now because it's really environmentally friendly. They plant trees. It's everything. All the packaging is recyclable, and I actually have been known to wrap presents up in this stuff. It works so well to make that pretty paper. So I will be continuing to collect these. Things like this. This was the recycled envelope that I put my husband's Valentine card in, and that's mine. You see, that's our names, Stinky and Whiffy. So those will make good bases for paper as well. These I'm collecting up for something else. This is my scavenged recycling stuff that I'm going to use. Oh, and I've got an idea for this one, a coffee bag. Someone gave me this actually. So I'm going to make another recipe using probably that brown paper I just showed you, and some of the coffee grounds, and the actual coffee bag. I think that'll be an interesting one. I've got, this was tea, which my son got me, you know, as a joke as much as anything. Oh, it smells delicious. You can see in there, what have we got? It's chamomile, rose and lavender. Now some of these are a bit big, these pieces, probably to use as paper. Oh, it just smells so lovely. But some of them, yeah, the rose petals and things will be, and the lavender will be lovely in paper. So and it's going to smell delicious. A little pack of forget-me-not seeds. Dolores reminded me that you can actually put seeds in handmade paper. Say I put a little thank you slip in with a parcel from my Etsy shop, for instance. Not going to happen at the moment because there's nothing in it, but you know, just imagine. Or say you could put a little thank you slip in with a card or something, and if it's got the seeds in, people could just put the whole little piece of paper in the ground and it will compost away really quickly, leaving behind the seeds, which will grow into flowers, which is lovely. And so I got forget-me-not because I love forget-me-nots and I just like the idea of it being forget-me-not. So those will be incorporated, but that's going to be like that's going to be a springtime celebration, possibly combined with the rose petals and lavender. And also collect up a few things like that. So an eBay invoice, that's an instruction thing I'm not going to use again. Things like my Specsavers reminder, because you do need some kind of plain things and like offcuts of paper that I'm not going to use any more of. So I'm collecting up a few of those like plain things as well. And there's lots more of those kind of things. So what I'm going to try today is these. I've been collecting up the labels from tin cans. So I've got sweet corn, low-fat mayonnaise, tin tomatoes, baked beans and tomato soup. I think that's probably the tins we have, really. So on coconut milk. Today's recipe I'm going to call Tin Can Delicious. And it's just going to be seeing what I can do with just these tin can labels. So the first thing I need to do is just pull out all the labels from all this other stuff that I've kept and see if I think I've got enough bulk there. If I need to bulk it up, I'll throw in some more sort of plain bits like this as well. But what I don't want is, I don't want to use any of the kind of brown paper with this one. I want this to be quite kind of light. So my first step, like last time, is to... Oh, this is the other thing I forgot. I was doing my wood toning for the first time the other day. So I kept all of the shavings from the wood toning, and I sort of emptied my pencil sharpener as well. I tipped all them in together because I thought that'll make a fun paper addition as well. So I'm keeping all kinds of rubbish. Okay, so I've got a fair amount of tin can labels and a little bit of sort of fairly plain white. I'll take that plastic out. A little bit of fairly plain white paper as well. I'm going to shred these up. I could actually put them through the shredder. Didn't occur to me when I did it before to do that, but of course it's a much quicker way to do it. But I'm just going to tear these up and then I'm going to put them into something watertight, obviously not, this wouldn't work, and leave them soaking until tomorrow. And that way they'll be easier to pulp. They don't need to be tiny, and I want to end up with some bits. I want there to be, I just love it when you see some recognisable bits of what it used to be in the paper that you've made. There, I'm just no smaller than that. That's small enough. So I've got my shredded tin can labels, about half that amount of just plain white paper. Some of it's just bags, some of it's envelopes. I'm going to throw the whole lot in here together. And then I'm going to cover this with water and leave it to soak overnight, just to soften the paper up so it will smash to a pulp more easily in the morning. There we go. So I'm just going to stir this around a bit, make sure it's all covered in the water, and just set that aside somewhere out of the way where I'm not going to put the foot in it. There we go. And I'll be back in the morning. Right, it's the next day. I've just been downstairs and whizzed all this through the little blender that I keep just for craft room purposes now. If I wasn't going to use it straight away, I'd sieve out the water, but as I'm just going to use it straight away and be throwing it straight into water, I'm not going to bother sieving it. I was wanting to leave a few obvious bits of the tin can labels in here, so some of these pieces might end up a bit too big, but I didn't want it all to be just grey mush either, so I did a bit like I did the last time. It kind of reminds me of when you're making a dip, something like a hummus, and you want most of it to be smooth and work like a dip, but you want some texture in there as well. So what I tend to do with that kind of thing is whiz most of it up smooth and then leave some quite coarse and stir them together, and that's kind of exactly the same thing as I've done here. So that's my pulp, my paper pulp ready. Now I need a couple other things. I've got a towel here, folded up just so it will fit on there. So this is the decal with the mesh screen. You can make these yourself out of a picture frames or something, and you can do it without the mould, but this makes it easier. You actually, to my surprise, you use the decal this way up, not that way, not for this method of paper making anyway, and then you put the mould over the top to sort of contain it and give you a good shape. So I need that. I've also got some pieces of cloth I've cut up from an old sheet, polycotton I think this is, and these are drying cloths, so I'm going to have a pile of them by my side, and I'm going to put one ready to use. And the last thing I'm going to need is a sponge. The idea now is to throw this is about sort of a third the way full with water, and the idea is to throw in enough paper pulp, and you kind of you get a feel for that as you go along. This is only the second time I've tried this process, so I'm hoping I'll do as well as I did last time. So I'm going to throw in probably a couple of handfuls like that. I've got a feeling I might have put too much of the plain white paper in, and when I do it again I might make more of the can labels just so it looks more colourful, but we'll see. Okay, and then you give it a really good stir so it's all agitated, and then you dip your decal. And lift it up, and I feel like it maybe looks a bit thin. I'm going to try this one and see how it goes. So I'm lifting that up. You can see there's some quite big chunks of paper there, but that's the look I'm going for. I could have just blended it further if I wanted it smoother, you know. I just feel like this is looking a bit thin in the middle, so if it goes wrong we just scrape it back into the bowl and do it again. Okay, so I'm going to lift off the mould now, and then I'm going to upend this onto the drying cloth. Now I'm going to use the sponge to soak up some of that excess water. And now with everything crossed, I'm going to hold down my cloth and lift my decal to reveal what I hope is a sheet of paper. Yes, does look quite thin though, I think. So I'm going to put a bit more pulp in the water this time. I quite like that I can see some little bits, some tiny words have come out of the, I think that says ingredients. And I'm going to set this to one side. I can pile these all up on top of each other, they won't stick to each other. Bring in a new drying cloth. So a bit more generous with the pulp this time. So there's some already in there, I'm adding a bit more. I think maybe I have left some of these pieces a bit too big, but some of them I can feel a plastickiness. It makes me think they've put some plastic coating on the label, which is a bit annoying. I I've also got, in a minute, I want to try adding some rainbow sprinkles. I've had these for ages, this kind of glitter stuff, so I thought we'd go nice with the colours. So I'm going to do one more just plain like this, then I'm going to add some glitter, just for fun. Got the decal up, that this way up, mould on top. We've got a much thicker one this time, look. Another thing I want to try another time is at this stage dropping a bit of brush-os or something like that on here, or pigments, things, just to see what happens. Might stain my mesh, but it won't really matter. Okay, lift off the mould. Oh look, I've got a hole there. I think I'll go with it because I like the look of this one. Oh, it's so satisfying. Even though I've got that gap there, but you know, it's hard to tell at this stage if this is going to be too thin or not. I think in places it does look a bit too thin. I'm really pleased with that. I love the fact that you can see the little bits of labels in there. That's exactly what I was hoping for. New cloth, more pulp, and this time I'm going to put in some sprinkles. A little bit more. Can't even remember what I had this for now, but it's good to have an excuse to use it up. Okay, give that a good old stir. A bit's too big. Yeah, I think if I do this again, I'll have to just go a stage further with the blending. These probably are a little bit too chunky, some of these, but love that with the glitter in. Can't make it catch the light on the camera. Alright, so I'm going to take out a couple of these really big bits. Let's just tear them up a bit. I feel like I maybe don't need any more. Yeah, I'm just going to take a couple of these bigger bits out. These can labels has definitely got some plastic content, which I can work out which one it is. Why do they need to put plastic in can labels? Okay, I'm going to add more sprinkles. Oh, I didn't put the drying cloth down. Done that before, just slapped it straight down on the towel. That's a bit annoying when that happens. There's maybe just my weird taste, I don't know, but I just love that. I love the combination of little snippets of ingredient labels and bits of glitter. I'll put the rest of that in now. Might be too much, but one more lot of glitter. And now I'm just going to keep doing this until there's not enough pulp left in the water. And then one thing worth mentioning is, if you're doing this and you've just got, you've got some paper pulp left in the water, but you don't want to do any more, or you haven't got enough left in there to actually make another sheet with, don't just throw all your paper pulp. Don't just empty this down your sink. You need to put it through a sieve to remove any remaining pulp, because you don't want that clogging up your drain. Oh, there you go. I've done the thing with where I've done a lovely sheet straight onto the towel. So pretty. I feel like I might be lucky to get 2 more out of this now. Yeah, I think you can see, although it's pretty, I think it's getting a bit thin. The bits in between are getting a bit thin, so now it's got to a point now where you can see I can't lift the sheet at all. The last one was so thin, I lifted it okay, but I don't think it'll hold together. So that's it. So I've ended up with this pile of sheets all stacked up on my drying cloths. I will carry these downstairs and carefully hang them up to dry. They just cling to the cloth, so you can hang them up and they don't fall off. It's amazing. And then the most satisfying part of the whole process is peeling them off once they're dry. Now, what someone suggested, Chris suggested, I think it was Chris, is that, and Dolores, is that if I put these in the press that came with my kit while they're wet and leave them to dry, they'd automatically be really flat. I'm doing it more the way that I was following Nevermind Paper's tutorial, and she hangs them up to dry like I'm going to do, and then puts them in the press afterwards to flatten them, and that seemed to work fine before, so I'm going to stick with that, because if I put them in here for a start, I'll have to cut all the cloths down to fit this, and I want to be able to use these with a bigger Declan mould if I get one. Also, it'll take longer drying that way, and I'd have to protect this untreated kind of MDF stuff that mould's made of. I'd have to put plastic. I'm going to do it the way I enjoyed doing it that way the last time, and then flattening them out. They just had to flatten overnight and they were fine. Here's how I don't know if I've shown this at the beginning of this video already, but you know, they came out pretty nice and flat doing it that way. Okay, so I'm going to hang those up to dry, and I'll come back tomorrow and show you the big reveal, the peel reveal. Right, so it's the next morning. I actually left these to dry in front of our radiators downstairs for about 3 hours last night, and then I took them off, piled them all up and put them under a heavy chest that I've got downstairs, just overnight to flatten them out a bit. I might need to put them in the press if they need more flattening. So now it's ready for the big reveal time. I did peel one off last night because I couldn't resist, but I saved the rest to share the moment with you. It's the most satisfying bit of the whole thing. This is the one I've already peeled it off. That's sort of quite thin, this one. If I hold it up to the light, I can see through parts of it. It's actually quite delicate, but certainly robust enough to use. I love how most of the twinkles are on that side, and most of the little snippets, little scraps of labels and things on this side. I just love that. It looks exactly what I wanted again. It's so nice and things come out exactly as you want. That's that one. I'm going to shake this glitter off afterwards. I didn't put any of the... I sieved out my water before I threw it away, so none of the glitter went down the sink or anything. So this is so satisfying. So you just get this piece, and although these stay stuck the whole time they're hung up to dry, are like magic. They come off very easily and very satisfyingly when you want them to. So you just... Oh. Now that's picked up a bit of the onion skin dye from last time. And they've flattened out quite nicely. I don't think I'll even bother putting them in the press. Be interested to see. Some of these were so thin I didn't think they'd work, but I love that. Very, very happy with that. And now I've worked out how to do my faux letterpress on there, I can just I can definitely make these into little thank you cards or whatever. Oh, listen to this. Now I thought that was picking up the onion skin thing, but I wonder if maybe it's some dye from the labels as well. Yeah, so obviously the glitter is kind of heavier, isn't it? So that's going to sink to the bottom more. Yeah, and this side, oops, this is stuck in it. This side is what as I was lifting the decal up out of the water. It's this side. So the bits of paper float to the top. The glitter sinks to the bottom against the mesh. That's why that's more on one side. But it's pretty though. It's pretty to have both. I could sit and do this all day. And each one, it's like, oh, what's it going to be like? Each one is different. This one's one of the very thin ones, but still actually usable. Now, I think the very thin ones that I was a bit worried about were mostly at one end, so we might be getting to that point now. That's very thin. It's amazing how thin it can go and still feel usable, robust enough to be usable for little notes or whatever. That was really thick. It almost feels like, you know, if I was going to guess, I would say that's like copy paper weight, and this is, I don't know, 200 GSM. And that one's 160. Oh, very glittery one here. This looks like the thinnest one of all. Let's just be a bit careful with this one. So this is extremely thin. There was hardly any pulp left at this point. It's almost like rice paper. It's so thin. But somehow it's holding together. And I actually really quite like it that it's thin. Let's have a quick look at what we got. Very happy with that. Right through from this very thin to extremely thick, so that they're sort of opposite ends of the scale. So here's the toilet paper one. So they have quite a different look. I'm going to tie these up with the string because I just like to do that. And there's some of the faux letterpress I've been doing, in case you haven't seen that video. That's a bit of die cutting there. I love that faux letterpress look, and it's quite easy to do if you've got a die cutting machine, so I'll try and remember to leave a link to that video in case you want to check it out if you've missed that one. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that I would do, and put in as, you know, I can put a little note on the back or whatever, put in as a little thank you with parcels in my Etsy shop, if I ever get around to putting anything in my Etsy shop again. Okay, so that's me done for today. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. I've got so many other ideas to try with this, so I'm going to do a little paper recipe every few days, and until I get it out of my system. Definitely my current obsession, one of my current obsessions. Okay, thanks again for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you again really soon.